So, I've recently switched to Neovim, and I wanted to make a video talking about it. Not necessarily why I switched to Neovim. I've only been using Vim since version 8 was around, probably not even a year yet, and it's my understanding that back around version 6 or 7 of Vim, there were actually some pretty substantial differences between Vim and Neovim, but at least during my time using Vim and Neovim, I haven't noticed all that many differences. There are a few little things that I like about Neovim, none of them really enough to switch. If I'm being completely honest with you, the reason that I'm switching to Neovim is just because Vim likes to store config files right here in this .vim directory and this .vimrc file right in the home directory, whereas Neovim stores all of its configurations in this .config folder, along with a lot of the other apps that I use, so it makes my home directory a bit cleaner. That seems like a really dumb reason to switch apps, but like I said, the two are basically at parity. I can't think of any feature off the top of my head that Neovim has that Vim doesn't, so if there are features that exist to separate the two from one another, I do not know of them. No. What this video is actually about is a little bit of an issue that I have with my Neovim config, and that is that for the entire time I have been using it, this is my entire Neovim config. And if you have used Neovim, you are probably familiar with this config because it's actually exactly what Neovim's sort of Vim tutor type help for new users things recommends that you do. Just immediately load your VimRC. And so that's all I've been doing the whole time. I source my original VimRC and VIMRUNTIME path, and that will basically use all of the configurations from Vim for Neovim. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm actually totally switching to Neovim. If I'm just like using a computer for a second, I'll use Vim. But if I'm going to install something on a main machine, I would be installing Vim to get the most recent version. So it just makes sense to install Neovim instead if that's what I technically prefer to use. Unfortunately, what that means is that I actually have to build out a legit Neovim config folder. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go into my init.vim folder. This is the configuration file for Neovim. It's stored in .config/invim. I believe that's the same for Linux, BSD, and macOS. I really couldn't tell you where it's at on Windows. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of those lines. And I know that was not the most efficient way to do it, but whatever. Now I have a blank Neovim config. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy over my VimRC from Vim. And now we have a bit of a good starting point. Really, I should be able to use my VimRC basically exactly as it's written here in Neovim, with one exception. Down here, I have a keyboard shortcut, source my VimRC, and what that will do is reload the current configuration file, but of course I don't want to load a VimRC if I'm using Neovim, so I'm just going to change that to config/invim/init.vim, and I'm also going to change this actual keyboard shortcut. I have no idea why I set this up this way. Control-U is a Vim command. It moves up and down the page, so I do not know how I didn't realize that. I think I was using Control-F and B to go forward and back rather than D and U going down, and I don't know. Whatever, it's fixed now. And then the other thing that I have to do, open up a browser here, I need to go to the Vim plug GitHub page, because it's my understanding that Vim plug has a different command to install on Vim or Neovim. Cool, so I'll have to get the Neovim version of the plugin there. Now, in case you don't know, Vim plug is just the plugin manager that I use. You can use any plugin manager you want. You don't even have to technically use a plugin manager to get plugins inside of Vim. I like this one, and I'm probably not going to get rid of it anytime soon. So, just going to copy over this new command, and then we'll quit, and I don't know if we have to do this from the home directory or not. It looks like all the links work, so we don't have to. Cool. That installed wickedly fast. And then we'll go back into the init.vim. And if I try to run plug install, cool, all of our plugins are in. Sweet. So now let's start tweaking a couple of things. First of all, I want to take a look at sort of some of my main settings right here. I keep these down in this general settings section, and I have an idea of what I want to do here. The first thing I want to do is I actually want to remove line numbers from Vim. I don't know if that's going to be controversial or not, but my thinking is the line number is displayed down here in this status bar. I'm using Airline for Vim right now, and probably any version of a status bar I use is going to have a line number. The line numbers take up space. I just don't like the idea that I have the same piece of information in two different places. And I like the idea of having this displayed down here. It's displayed as, I'm on line 33 out of 62. I like that, and I found myself using the sort of relative line numbers that I have set up here. That's where, it displays the current line as the actual line number, and then the lines counting forward and up, it just counts. It's supposed to make it easier to delete to a certain line or, do commands to a line, but I find myself using that a lot less now. So I'm going to give this a test drive. I'm just going to completely delete my line numbers here. So that's these two commands right here. Set number relative number and set NU RNU. Okay, so then we'll save that, reload, and they are gone. Very nice, cool. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this line over here on the side of my Vim window. Again, it seems a tiny bit repetitive because I have a column counter over here on my status bar. And all this is doing is telling me when I hit line 80, which is sort of helpful for, a number of different things, but I'm gonna get rid of it. I think it looks a bit ugly, and, we'll see how life is without it for a while. I don't really know of too much else that I want to change up here. I like the way that I have the tabs and everything set up. Spell checking's good. I don't even know what this no emoji command does, so I'm just going to delete that. Hopefully it doesn't break anything. And then, one other thing I did want to add is I found a command that I like, cursor line. And what that should do is, I used to use iTerm, and you could have a command that would just sort of always highlight the current line that you were on, and I like that a lot, but since I switched to using Alacrity, I don't have that feature anymore, and I really only used it in Vim. I left it on for the entire terminal, but anyways, Vim has a built-in cursor line, and I actually do like that. If I ever want to write without that or work without it, I do have a keyboard shortcut to trigger Goyo, and I'll be able to turn that off when I'm in Goyo, so won't worry about that too much. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the main part of this video, and that is that I am getting rid of Airline for Vim. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Mainly just that I've used a lot of sort of status bar plugins. I've tried a lot of them. I've tried Powerline and Lightline and Airline and tons others that I can't remember the name of. But I have yet to find one that I'm really just a huge fan of, and I find myself wanting to customize my status bar quite a bit. So I actually found out that Vim has a way to build out your own status line, and I'm just going to give that a shot. I've got some info on it down here. If you're interested, you can just do H status line, and that should pull up the Vim help file. I've printed that out so that I can look at it a bit easier and get some more info about it. And I've also got a couple of blog posts open that I was reading through, and I'm just going to try to build out a status bar here and see how it goes. So I guess I'll come down here right below my general settings, and I'm going to open up a new sort of comment, and I'll say this is my status line. And it's my understanding that the easiest way to just start a status line is we should be able to say set status line equals plus, and then if I type in any text, reload Vim, we have a status line, and it will just say hello world, exactly what we typed. So that's a good starting point, but we actually want to use some variables. And the first thing that I know, well, at least that's what's been recommended to me from where I've been reading, is that you actually want to separate out the different commands that you use to different lines. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this, and we're going to put a plus sign in front of the equal. This will be how we add things to the status line. And there are a whole bunch of variables that I want to use. I think I've decided on the variables that I want to use. But if you're looking for your own, again, go into that help file for status line and just go down a bit until you find the list of all the various variables that you can use. You can also look up blog posts. I haven't found too many videos that are super helpful about talking about this. There are some, but I just haven't looked at too many. So anyways, let's go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is I want to add a variable. We're going to start it with the /, or I don't know, the \. I don't know if it's the / or the /, whatever. And then I'm going to add %m. And if we reload Vim, what that particular variable should do is just let us know. You'll notice this little plus sign popped up here down in the corner. That will let us know if we have made any changes since the last time we wrote changes to a file, which I find helpful. One other thing I want to do, make a copy. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to use the variable y. It's going to display the file type right there. So this is a Vim file, of course. If we were to open up, I don't know, what's a file type we could get to quickly? Yeah, there we go. Let's open up a CSS file. Boom. That's a CSS file. Now it says CSS down here. That's all it's going to do. It's going to tell us exactly what file type we're editing. I don't know how handy that is. I don't know if it's like information that I just absolutely need, but I kind of like it being there for now. I can always delete it if I don't want it later. We'll grab another command here, r. I don't know what that's going to do. Well, there was something. I remember writing it down for a reason. Let's see here. Let me look at my list here. I feel like an old man. I actually printed out the help file so that I can look through it a bit easier. I hope you can hear the pages. Oh, this is a read-only flag. So if I were to open up that help file again, I believe help files are read-only. Okay, cool. You can see it pulls up a little indicator here to tell me that this file is read-only. So that's pretty cool. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do set status line, and I'm going to do %f. And what this should do is it should print out the full path to whatever file we are editing. And I like that a lot. Now, if you wanted this to just be the relative path, I think you could use f, and there you go. It'll see it'll just basically just list the file name. But in my case, I'm going to want the full path to the file. And then I've sort of finished up all the stuff that I want over here in this right corner. I want to try to put some stuff in the left corner of the screen. And the way that you do that is I'm going to do set status line plus equals, and then we do a % equals. And then everything that we type past this should be left-right aligned. So let me add a comment so I don't forget what that does. And then we add lines the exact same way. That's not going to change. So the next setting I'll add is I'll do %in. And what that should do is it will display the buffer number. So if I open up a file in a split here, you can see this is our second buffer, our file explorer over here. This is our third buffer, this new file that we've opened. So that's kind of handy. That seems like one of the things that I might end up getting rid of, but you know, for now I like it. One thing I will do is I'm going to just literally surround this command in some brackets so that it's going to display the buffer in some brackets. That'll kind of make it stand out a bit more, I think. That should help out. Okay, and then let's paste that up there. Okay, now we get to the good stuff here. I'm going to add a command %. The syntax for this one is a little bit weird because what we're doing is we're saying we want to display the percentage of the line that we are on the document. So if we're 90 way down the document, 90% of the way down the document, it will display 90%. But the way that we do that is we have to add 2 % signs on the end. One of these will actually just display, it'll just literally print out the %, the same way that it literally prints out these brackets for the buffer command. So if I did this right, this is one of the blog post commands. Okay, sweet. Okay, yeah, it's working just the way it's supposed to. It's just going to display the % of the way that we are down the document. And then the last thing that I want to add here is I'm going to do set status line plus equals. And this will be a bit more complex. I'm going to do %C. And what that should do is display the column that we are on. Then I want to add a colon in the middle, and I'm going to do %L, which should display the current line that we're on, / %L, which should display the entire number of lines in the entire document. So if we check this out one more time, we get an error. Okay, let's figure out what's going on here. I see exactly what happened. We forgot to add the / right here. Let's try that again. There we go. So we have a line, we're on line 15 out of 68, so I can still get the line number if I need it. And as we move left or right, we can see the current column or current character that we're on. Okay, that's actually a pretty good start for my status line. You can look into this a bit more if you want. There are a lot of plugins and things that people have written for them just for using these custom status lines. But I'm actually pretty happy with this setup as a start. The one thing I want to do is something that's a bit convoluted and complicated, is I want to add some colors to the status line. What I want to do is I want to take a look at a file called highlight test. The only issue is we have to generate that file. So I'm going to drop a command in the comments, and I'll also link below it where I found the command. It's on a guy's blog here. I'm going to go ahead and run this command. And what this will do is generate a highlight test file for us. So you can see right now it's in .config/nvim highlight test. So we should be able to get back to that pretty quickly. Now it's my understanding that what we do is we find a file that we like. This file should sort of change when you change color schemes, which is nice. But we find a color that we like, and it should inherit any underlining, any text colors, any background highlighting colors, basically whatever color we pick, what will show up in the status line. And I believe the way that we do it is we're just basically going to treat this first column here. So for example, P menu select, I like that color, the kind of light blue on black text. If we were to just treat this like the name of a color, what we would do is we would come down into our status line here, and I'll do set status line equals plus equals, and then I'm gonna surround this in percent signs. Or no, I'm not. I'm gonna add a percent sign here. Oh boy, let me look at this syntax here. It's gonna be plus equals, then a percent sign, and I want to surround the word in hashes. Okay. So what I should be saying now is that I'm just gonna make my entire status bar this light blue color. So let's give that a shot. Okay, yeah, that worked. That was relatively painless. Let me make a couple of copies of this because I want my left side to be a bit of a different color. So I'm gonna paste that down there, and I'm just gonna fish around and see if I can find a color that I like. Okay, yeah, that'll work. So it's pretty subtle. I just sort of have a green for this left side or right side of the status bar, and a nice blue for the sort of line title side of it. This is a pretty simple status bar, but I like it, and I built it myself, and I'll tweak it some more if I need to. For now, let's move on to something else, which is getting this file manager that I've been using. I like it a lot. It's called VIMRUNTIME, or it's the V file manager is what it stands for. It's VIMRUNTIME is how you launch it. This is a great file manager. It's available on macOS and Linux and everything. Probably Windows too, I'm not sure. And I like it because it just basically respects all of the Vim key bindings that you're probably already familiar with. H and J and K and L to go forward and backwards. It's very fast because it's a command line file. If I want to delete a file, DD
mega doo-doo
works. I mean, that's great. One of the things that I hated about like Ranger, for example, is that I had to learn key bindings, which I know is stupid coming from someone who spent the time to learn Vim. But whatever, this is way better. And the cool thing is that I found a plugin that will make this easier for me. I'm going to search hitest.vim. So this is a plugin for Vim. It should let me use that same file manager inside of Vim, which I think is going to be better than the solution I have now. Right now I'm using Vim's built-in file explorer. I was using NerdTree for a while. I've tried some fuzzy finders. I have yet to find a good solution, but I think I'm going to like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add plug, then let's get the address right. I think it's vifm/vifm.vim, and then I'll go ahead and run plug install. Okay. Let's go ahead and restart Vim one more time. And now if I run, I don't even know what the command is. Maybe it's just vifm. That ain't it. Maybe it's capital. Oh, hey, that works. Cool. What if okay, I'm trying to think about how this works on the command line. If I run vifm tilde, will that open my home directory? No. Okay, let me take a look at the actual config here. Is this documentation? No, it's not. Okay, they made this a little more difficult than it needed to be, but if I run edit vifm, that will open up the file explorer. And the cool thing about that is that if I do edit vifm and I do it in like a certain directory, it will open in that directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to my key bindings, and it was nice knowing you, Lex. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace that key binding with this new vifm key binding. So I'm going to do edit VIFM, and then I'll add a dot at the end. And if you don't know, what that should do is make sure that VIFM will open in our current directory. If you're ever doing a command on the command line and you want to like copy or move something to your current directory, you can just add dot as the location, and that will do the exact same thing for you. And then I don't like Control-N as the key binding anymore, so again, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but I'm just going to change it to space, and you know, we'll see how that goes. Actually, while I'm in there, since I'm making dumb decisions that might not end up well for me, I'm just going to delete this because I'm not even using it. But then I will replace the Godot key binding as enter. We'll see how that works out for me. So if I hit enter, should pop in and out of Godot, and if I hit space, that'll open up my file explorer. It's very quick, and I like it. I just don't know how easy it's going to be to accidentally hit that. Okay, whatever. Let's go ahead, and I guess I'm gonna try to make some other changes to my key bindings here. These are my key bindings to remap the arrow keys to resize windows. I like those a lot, but I want to take it a bit further. Capital Q takes you into this weird mode, EX mode, execute mode. I have no idea what this mode does, but I've hit it on accident a couple of times, and I'm sure I'll get into figuring out exactly what that does a bit later. But for now, to save myself, I'm going to remap Q to not. And what that should do is effectively just disable that shortcut for now. I actually do have it on a list of things that I want to check out and learn what that mode is, what it does, but for now it's just turned off. A couple other things I want to do here. I want to remap Control H, Control W to just H, or Control H effectively is what it's going to be. So what I'm saying is I want to use Control H as the new shortcut for what used to be Control W plus H. What that is when you navigate around a split, whether it be a V-split or anything else, use Control W to say you want to move, and then Vim keys to actually make the movement happen. I don't like that. I want to just use Control and then X Vim key. So all I should have to do is make 4 copies of this and just replace J, K, and L, and this was not my idea. I didn't come up with this idea. I saw it in someone's config or someone's video somewhere, and I'm really sorry. I don't remember who or what it was, but now if I get a couple of splits going on here, I should be able to navigate them. Oh yeah, that's so much better immediately. Yeah, I like that so much more. And then the final thing I want to do is I'm just going to copy and paste something again. I know this is kind of annoying, but I want to... The reason I'm copying and pasting it is because I'm not 100% sure how it works. But what it should allow me to do is basically move a line up and down, which by default is kind of a bit tricky to do in Vim. But what should happen now is if I go into visual mode, I'm just going to hit Shift V to select the line here. And then I'll go down to select both of these lines. Now when I press capital J, whoops, actually I should probably reload. When I push capital J or capital K, it will just let me move these lines around. And that seems very handy. I can think of several instances where I would immediately use that functionality. So that's very cool. Okay, so next up, I want to work on Godot a bit. This is one of my favorite plugins. It basically just removes a lot of the fluff from Vim and gives you a very neat, clean, tidy window to write text in. I use it all the time because, as I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos, I'm not a programmer or anything. Most of what I do in Vim is just sort of standard writing. So you can probably imagine that I'm a big fan of this plugin, but I have some ideas about how to make it better. The first way that I want to do that is with a plugin that I have found called Limelight. I might have to search for it on GitHub. There we go. This is made by the same person that made Godot, and if this GIF works here, you can kind of see what it does. It just highlights your current line. So I'm not sure if this is going to take any configuration to get working. I remember I tried to use it before, and there was a reason that I quit, but I do not know what that reason was. So we'll go ahead and install that. We might just quit and reload Vim to make sure everything works properly. And then, oh dear, what's the command to trigger it? I guess it's probably just Limelight, eh? G Limelight conceal cterm fg required. Okay, well, let's figure out what that is. Oh, so we only need this bit, right? We'll just copy over this stuff. I guess this will fix whatever issue we're having. I won't look into it any more than that. Can I just drop it down here in my color settings? Yeah, appears to be. Okay. reload that. We'll try to launch Limelight again. And there it is. It's just highlighting the current, well, I guess it's highlighting the current paragraph that we're in. Or I don't know exactly how it works, but this should work well with the way that I want to use it. Now, of course, what I really want to do is just link this to work whenever I launch Godot. So if I look up the Godot page on GitHub, they have a solution built in. And what that is that there is an auto command. Here it is right here. Well, I guess it's not, I don't know. Here it is here. This is a way to basically just trigger a whole bunch of other things to happen when you enter Godot. So I'm going to copy their sort of sample bit here, and I'll just drop it down to my color settings, or maybe right below it. I'll do Godot settings, and then, oh, it actually has the Limelight commands built in. Sweet, I didn't even notice that. I'm just going to remove some of the stuff that I don't need here. Okay, but what you can see is, for example, when we enter Godot, it's going to turn on no show mode, turn on no show command, do something with the scroll off setting. I'm not 100% sure what that is. And then when we leave Godot, it's going to show mode back on, show command back on, and set scroll off to 5. So let's reload here. When I enter Godot, Limelight is on by default. It's not showing the mode. It's still showing the command, but I think that's an issue I've ran into before trying to use that no show command. So there's something else about my config that's making that not work. I'm just going to save that for a later date. And then, oh, I also wanted to turn off this cursor here. So what was the command cursor line? So can I do set no cursor line? I can. Cool. So what we'll do is we will do set cursor line when we enter or when we leave, and set no cursor line when we enter. I'm going to delete that scroll off thing. I don't know what that does. Okay, cool. Now it's gone. Okay, so that's probably good enough for Godot. And that's actually probably good enough for this whole video. I'm pretty happy with the changes I've made here. I think this is gonna help out quite a bit. None of this is really specific to Neovim, by the way. If you're a Vim user, you know, you can use any of these same settings. Like I mentioned, the Neovim config and the Vim config are basically the same. Oh, one other thing I forgot. I had a list of plugins that I wanted to install. I didn't mean to just pop that on there. These are just color schemes that I like. So I'm gonna go ahead and install those. And before I do, one other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to map changing color schemes to some of the function keys. And so the way that you do that is you just do map to, we'll say F1 in this case. And I'm gonna just type in the exact command that we would use, color scheme, and then I'll type in the name of the color scheme, and that's the whole thing. And then we could just make a whole bunch of copies of these and change the color schemes. Something like that should work pretty nicely. And then if I actually go ahead and install all these plugins, I didn't just like pause the video, these are all color schemes that I've used in the past and I liked. So now if I close this, Control S, I should be able to use the function keys to just cycle through some color schemes pretty quickly here. Okay, cool. So that's pretty good. I'm quite happy with those changes. One other thing I might mention is that if you go into your Zeesh RC or your Bash RC or whatever shell RC you're using, one other thing I did, and this is very popular, is I'm just going to remap or alias Vim to Neovim. There's a syntax for that. You just do alias space, you know, and then whatever you want to use as your alias equals whatever program you want it to launch. And then if you reload your shell, when I type in Vim, I'm in Neovim now. So that is it. I've officially switched to Neovim. Thanks everyone for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.